Hello everybody, Caleb with Almond Landscape here, Almond Environmental, the Hardscape Academy. We've had a Caterpillar 304 E-CR, E2CR. We've had this on rent for a month. We own a Cat 303.5. So on the Caterpillar machines, all the model numbers tell what it is. So 3 series machines are all excavators. If it's, I think 2, like a 259 is the skid steer loaders. Like Cat 900s are the big wheel loaders. Not dozers, they're exempt, I think, from that. Graders, all that stuff have a different number as the first thing for their model to at least describe the make here. So, or not the make, but the type of machine you have. So if you hear somebody say they have a 316 Caterpillar, you know it's an excavator and a 16 ton. So the next numbers after that is the tonnage, metric tonnage. So this is a 4 metric ton machine. If it were 314, it'd be a 14 metric ton machine. The E2CR, it's got all sorts of different, that's got all sorts of different coding and meaning for like long track, wide track, extended boom, long stick, you know, whatever. I don't know what E and CR is on this, even though I own a 303.5 E2CR. I don't even know, it doesn't matter to me. We own a 303.5, which I think is a fantastic size machine for a small hardscape company, lawn landscape business, or, you know, just general, you know, small excavation type work. The main point of that, the main thing I think about that is hauling capability wise. So it's only, the 303.5 is a 3.5 ton machine, 3.5 metric ton machine. It weighs what, like 7,000-ish pounds plus some extra, you know, options here and there. But that's readily haulable with like a 1-ton dually, or my truck here, this 3/4 ton Chevy. Wouldn't want to make a habit out of that every single day if it didn't have to, but like a 1-ton dually will pull it really well. Even a gasser will pull it okay, as long as it's got a bigger gas engine in it. So I love the 303.5. 304 is a nice in between there. I would stay like 303, 305, and then either go bigger if you're a bigger excavation company, like a 308, like an 8-ton machine. That's like a nice, I don't know, and you know, it all is going to depend on what your company does, right? And you know, you and your company footprint, you know, how wide it is going to be a big deal as far as how, you know, what type of properties you work on, small residential, large open commercial properties, whatever. And that's all going to, you know, vary by what you need the thing to do. Things I would recommend getting with, you know, your excavator. Like I said, I would go, I think really the cool setup is like a 303.5, 304, although Mass Hardscaper has a 305 and he loves it. He says it's game changer, which it is, it's bigger. But again, it's a 10,000 pound machine, bare bones. So you got to consider the logistics, you know, of a machine that big. Especially if you're a smaller company like us. The things you really want to have with it, a thumb. You really want to make sure you got a thumb. If you can afford it, and even if you can't, figure out a way. You want hydraulic, ideally hydraulic quick connect buckets, so you can change buckets in the cab, so you can switch back and forth really quickly and really easily. So say we want to go from this to a ditching bucket to do some grading. You're all in the cab. With this machine, the way this is, bone stock, you've got this wrench, and you've got to get in here. And this is better than driving out pins and stuff, which you used to. You got to loosen this thing up, and then undo this safety catch, and then get back in the cab. It takes time, and it's not worth it. So I've got a JRB quick attach, a quicker attach is what I call it. It's a little bit quicker. I'll try to do that in a video one of these days. But the old days, you used to have to drive out each of these pins and then put a new bucket in there. Well, they started figuring out better clamp situations. So again, the hydraulic situation is you take in your bucket in your cab, the house, the machine, whatever, push a button, it starts beeping at you, telling the bucket's, you know, capable of becoming disconnected, hooking a new bucket, done, and you can switch back and forth, which is really cool if you're trenching and then doing some grading, and trenching and grading, so you can grab like a 36-inch ditching bucket, which is what I would recommend. You know, 12-inch ditching or 12-inch trenching bucket. Now we have our good friends at Midnight Steel weld on a 1/2-inch steel plate onto the teeth here, and this makes it really nice for all the drainage work we do, especially because we got to get those grades like perfect. That solid or smooth cutting edge there is really nice for peeling those ditches out real nice and precise. A 24-inch tooth bucket is nice again to move more material, and then a ditching bucket, like a 36-inch ditching bucket, is really cool. for grading and spreading out material and stuff like that. So I'd highly recommend that. Quick look inside of the cab here, which is a mess because it's been on this commercial project here for a week. But all your controls, you know, all your standard stuff for driving. Your computer's pretty simple. We'll let it fire up. I think we're almost out of fuel here, whatever. But this one doesn't have any safety codes in it. The one we own does. Right to full throttle. So there's two patterns on excavators. There's excavator and backhoe pattern, and I prefer backhoe pattern. Don't know why, it's just what I got used to. But and then the swivel on your king post there is really handy for digging up against ditches and things, or you know, if you never know what circumstances you end up in where you've got to be angled like this to do something, and it's awful nice. And that's pretty standard on an mini excavator, but pretty cool there. Your horn, most important thing, and then your thumb control. That's really handy. A thumb is incredibly handy. If you can afford it, enclosed cab is really nice. If you can't, that's not a must-have, but it is really nice to have air conditioning blowing on you here. But overall, the machine, you know, tracks, you know, like an excavator would, right? And does all right. So, but just your basic mini excavator here. What I think the really cool setup is like a 303, 305 or 304 excavator, and then with a micro mini excavator, which would be like a 301. And that thing's itty bitty. It's like a shovel. It's like a gasoline or diesel powered shovel. And that's really handy. That's like the cool setup. I think Andy just bought a micro mini. Jeremy Swihart has a micro mini and a full size, or not a full size, but a bigger excavator. You know, one thing, if you want to consider a tilt rotator on your excavators, and on these even a 304, a tilt rotator on a 304 is pushing it. You really want to go to like 304.5 or a 305 with a tilt rotator, because that tilt rotator adds a lot of weight out there on the end of the stick. That's kind of the big overview of an excavator. Britt, any input there? Britt's wrapping up this terrible job we're on right now. We got caught in the rain doing our curb work. Oh, so bad. Anybody that does concrete and got caught in the rain, no fun. So that's that. So Cat 304, nice size machine. Just consider the hauling weight and then what you do with it. The 3035 actually is just big enough that it's just big enough you can pick up Rosetta retaining wall stones, just barely. A 304 probably handle it really well. But you know, a 304, you check with your tilt rotator manufacturers, and the tilt rotator is the thing where the bucket will spin, angle, all that stuff. But that adds a couple 100 pounds out there at least. I think actually it's 400 or 500 pounds. That changes the dynamics of this machine. So you don't want to make sure that if you're going to do tilt rotator setup at some point, you get the big enough base unit to handle that. So that's a good point, Britt, good input. Make sure you change out your final drive oil pretty often, and more often than they recommend actually. And have a good set of sling strap and clevises or clevi for hauling around, or you know, for picking stuff up, and you'll be good to go. So that's that. Don't ever price your jobs to go perfectly, and that's something more or less I have learned and have implemented over the years, of like always giving ourselves in our jobs, you know, extra percentage of man hours, be it 10% or a day or whatever, of like, this is how I want it to go. In reality, how it's going to go is this. And it's a lot different too when it's owner operator versus your guys in the field and you're not there.